shall I go? What shall I do?
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Behave yourselves!
Hello, YouTubers out there. This is Jerry Saravia at the Movies. Now, some of you that have been following my channel for a little while, you'll know that I discussed the first teaser for this new Superman movie by director James Gunn, and I wasn't exactly sold on it, but, you know, it's just a teaser. Usually a teaser or trailer, sometimes they can deliver the goods and, build up the anticipation. I wasn't quite feeling it with Superman because I just felt, okay, here we go, yet again, another Superman movie. And the reason I say that is because not a little bit more than a decade ago, we had Henry Cavill as Superman. And 7 years prior to that was Superman Returns, a rather unfortunate Superman Returns. So Henry Cavill appeared in Man of Steel, which I do like. Sort of a somber chamber piece to a certain extent, but I like the movie. And then he appeared again in Batman vs. Superman and, of course, the Justice League. So for a while, it was assumed he was going to return as Superman, and of course that didn't quite happen. And James Gunn, the director of the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy, in addition to The Suicide Squad and other movies that I don't exactly care for prior to Guardians of the Galaxy or The Suicide Squad. Not a big fan of James Gunn in general, but nonetheless, you don't have to be a fan to see this new Superman film by this director. But nonetheless, I wasn't exactly sold on it. And the costume maintains some of the primary colors, which I think are important. I like to see Superman in primary colors. The reason is because the costume should not have to be desaturated. Otherwise, like Henry Cavill's costume, to a certain extent, look like Bizarro or Evil Superman from Superman 3. I mean, I was surprised that I was the only one that really even thought that. I mean, what the heck is going on here, But I grew accustomed to it, and I liked Henry Cavill. So here we are, it's a new Superman movie, and everywhere I turn, people are talking about Superman. I mean, I don't mean just social media. I mean, I know people from work who usually I don't hear too many of them talking about new movies, but oh, we're getting ready to see Superman. It's like a thing. And, you know that it's reached the zeitgeist when the Majority Report, and I mention that because I followed the Majority Report. I like Sam Cedar and their discussion on political hot takes. And when they're talking about Superman and that they feel that the film is anti-Israel, which is rather interesting, then I felt, you know what, I have to check this movie out. So I did. So I went to a screening, and as usual, we get 30 minutes to 40 minutes of trailers and advertisements and all that. But when the film started, right away, I felt I was transported back to when I first saw Christopher Reeve in Superman in 1978. My father took me to see that in a theater back then, which is one of the really few special memories I have of the 1970s, in particular with seeing that movie. So it just took me back. There you see in this case it's Antarctica, where the Fortress of Solitude is, Superman's home to a certain extent. Usually it's the Arctic, but in this case it was Antarctica. You see a couple of titles on the screen. Superman falls from the sky. It's like 3 minutes later, or something like that. He falls from the sky into the snow. He's bleeding. And this is seen in the teaser. He whistles for Krypto. I mean, those scenes I did like in the trailer. And Krypto comes in, drags him, and then the Fortress of Solitude emerges from the snow. Now, if you think back to Superman, the original one with Christopher Reeve, he threw an ice crystal, and then the Fortress of Solitude was formed. And it stayed formed. I mean, it kind of, that's it. But in this case, this is just, it just emerges from the snow like if it was underground. And then it goes right back underground after you enter. I mean, I was floored. And I said, oh my God, if this movie maintains this level of excitement, just there was something about it that I felt it was like I was really living through, let me put it this way. it really felt like I was reading the comic book version of this movie. I mean, and the images come to life. Like, oh, what a great job these illustrators did. They're transporting me into this world. That's kind of how I felt. And the rest of the movie, to me, delivers on that note. So here I am again talking about a trailer that I wasn't too sure about. Was I going to see this movie? I wasn't really sold on it. I kind of thought, I'll be honest with you, before the movie even came out, I thought it's going to come and go. People are not going to care. This is just, it's like a DC curse. DC movies just don't do as well as Marvel. Well, surprise, surprise, this movie is a huge box office hit, and I really liked it. So, David Corenswet, who's pretty much new to this role for sure. I mean, it's so David Corenswet appears, and he plays Superman and Clark Kent. My only objection is that we only see briefly Clark Kent. I wish we saw more of Clark Kent. We don't see much of him. I don't know why they do this. Like Man of Steel, for those of you who have seen it, spoiler alert, and there are some spoilers in this review, so be prepared if you haven't seen it. But in Man of Steel especially, we only see Clark Kent at the very end of that film. And he decides to work for the Daily Planet, which was an interesting new way of doing it. I mean, I admire it for doing that. So anyway, but Clark Kent is very briefly seen. It's not much Clark Kent in this movie. So at the beginning of this film, Superman has been fighting the Hammer of Boravia. This is some supervillain created by Lex Luthor. And Boravia is a fictionalized Eastern European country that is about to invade the neighboring country of Jarampur. I hope I got that right. Which comes from the comics, this fictionalized country and setting. And it's Slavic, Boravia. I don't really see the connection between this and what's going on in Israel and Palestine. But like I said, Majority Report, Emma, for those of you who watch that show, she says, I feel this very much was anti-Israel. Well, okay. But anyway, it's still a Slavic country. So Superman has stopped this invasion from happening. It's saved millions of lives. And the Boravian president, who I guess, for some is probably modeled on Netanyahu, nevertheless shocked that Superman would intervene and that he had no call to do so, and so on and so forth. And so is Lois Lane. Now, Lois Lane, of course, is played by Rachel Brosnahan. She's very sharp in this film, terrific. I bought her completely as Lois. My other complaint, I wish we had more Lois Lane. More scenes, really, between Lois and Superman, and Lois and Clark. And the reason I say that is because that formed the backbone of Superman 2, which is easily the best superhero sequel ever made, as far as I'm concerned. So, anyway, that's kind of, we've had that in the past, and it would have been nice to see more layers of it. But nonetheless, there's some fake banter between Clark and Lois, and then we see Jimmy Olsen, who is quite energetic. Everybody's very energetic and driven to in this movie to whatever it is they're doing, including the Boravian president, Vasil Gurkos. So anyway, then we find that Lois comes back to her apartment, which is a rather shabby apartment, which I liked, in Metropolis, or New York, technically. And but it is Metropolis, modeled on New York, of course. So and when you think about it, it's much more apropos for a reporter than what Margot Kidder's Lois Lane lived in, this sort of luxurious penthouse that was overlooking the city with a patio. Like, a reporter wouldn't really, even for the Daily Planet, it's not going to make enough money to have that. But nonetheless, it's a movie, So, but this was a little more realistic. And they're already having a love affair. So she knows that Superman is Clark Kent and vice versa. And she decides, hey, you have been interviewing yourself. You've been getting the skinny on Superman. How about we really talk about this, about what Superman is doing? And what are the ethical and moral dilemmas of intervening in a foreign war when you don't consult the Department of Defense and all this other stuff? And I love that stuff because that showed that she could question and criticize our favorite costume superhero, or at least my favorite. And so that's what I love about it. And he doesn't have much to say. Superman is not really a politician. He doesn't really get into politics very much. He just simplistically wanted to save people. Now, evil billionaire Lex Luthor, played by Nicholas Hoult, is something of an oligarch in this movie. He is the CEO of Luthor Corp, of course, and he has been sponsoring Boravia, and he also has ideas of real estate property in Jarampur because of their oil and mineral deposits. What is it about Luthor and his affinity for beachfront property? You know what I mean? So, always interested in real estate, this man. Luthor has the powerful Ultraman, who's also played by Corin Sweat, who has superpowers like Superman, yet needs to be controlled by a team of technicians who control every move, punch, and kick of Ultraman. And they have these micro-drone cameras that they're flying in the sky at the same rate. I mean, wow, these are really advanced drone cameras, I would say. Flying at the same rate as these two are battling each other, Superman and Ultraman. So very advanced technology, which you would think Superman would find a way to destroy all this stuff, but nonetheless, it takes some effort. This movie is a lot of fun. It's fantastically fun. It's colorful. It's goofy. It's humorous. Is some of it a little bit campy? No less campy than the Christopher Reeve versions, but I like that about it. It doesn't take itself too seriously. If I had to rate it, I would put it this way. Man of Steel, for me, gets a solid B rating. I did have some issues with that film, but overall, I liked it. I liked Henry Cavill in it. Like I said, it was sort of a somber chamber piece to a certain extent, that movie. But this movie is tremendous fun. It's very colorful. It's witty. I just had a ball watching it. Now, do I wish it was more Lois Lane between the relationship between her and Superman? Now that they have this love affair, what can Lois do with this relationship and pretend that she doesn't know Clark Kent is Superman at their workplace, And I wish there was more of that, because that makes it fun. It makes it more engaging to be involved in their lives in that sense. But nonetheless, there are some major pluses. We have tech-savvy Mr. Terrific, which is a very commanding performance by Edie Gathegi, I believe. And then there is Green Lantern, which, I didn't really read up on any of this stuff, so I had no idea Green Lantern was actually in this. I didn't know. Even from the trailer, I couldn't quite make that connection. I guess I see Green Lantern a certain way from way back when. But he is hilariously played by Nathan Fillion. He has this sort of golden bowl haircut. I mean, it's fun. And this overconfidence about himself, and and they are at the Hall of Justice, him and Mr. Terrific, and also Hawk Girl, which I also liked, played by Isabella Merced. But Green Lantern insists on being called the Justice Gang, and hopefully eventually they'll be called the Justice League, which is a lot better. Then there's a very goofy Jimmy Olsen, played by Skylar Gisondo, who I'd seen before in a couple movies. I remember the Vacation remake. I kind of liked him in there. A very squeaky version of Miss Tessmacher, played by Sarah Sampaio, who's Portuguese. I had no idea. I mean, you watch it, you think this is I was shocked. Very good performance by her. She takes a lot of selfies, and that sort of works for the plot because eventually it reveals some information in those selfies about her boyfriend, Lex Luthor. Now, overall, yes, there are maybe too many villains. It's a lot to keep track of in here. Maybe, as I put it, too muchness in this movie. And James Gunn can be guilty of that sort of thing. But this movie is less overstuffed than any of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies by James Gunn, which I thought were adequate. They're sort of fun, but I couldn't really tell you the difference between one or the other. But nonetheless, it was nice to see this type of Superman movie by James Gunn as a return, a revisit to comic book movies that can be colorful, colorfully designed, and manage current political hot takes as slightly subtle but not so subtle subtext. This was the most fun I've had with a comic book movie, I think, since Captain Marvel. of late. So those are my thoughts on it. What do you think about Superman? He's back in a major way. I mean, this is taking off. This movie is soaring at the box office. I don't know what to say. I really enjoyed it. If you're going to see this movie, it should be seen in a theater. I think a good Superman movie should be seen in a theater. So go check it out. Let me your thoughts. Tell me what you think of director James Gunn, of this Superman movie, or Superman in general. Who are your favorite Supermans? For me, it's still Christopher Reeve. And from the old days, I guess George Reeves. And I liked Henry Cavill. But in general, Christopher Reeve, I think, nailed that role completely, both as Clark Kent and as Superman, establishing them both as separate characters. He did that the best. If you are new to this channel, please subscribe. I do review movies quite often and talk about any film-related subjects. And of course, sometimes, not very often, I do fan film trailers for some of my favorite movies. If I come up with something, I will try to do it. A trailer in a new and different way, hopefully. And also review films. So if you're already a subscriber, thank you. Please hit that notification bell for future uploads. And that's all I got to say about Superman. And this is Jerry Saravia at the Movies, signing off.